I've only been with Metrolink now for about 3 months. So my train industry career has only been 3 months. I am not a trained person. I came out of the hospitality industry. I've been in the hospitality industry for over 30 years. The last 15 years I ran my own company. Some of the companies I worked for in the past have been SeaWorld, Marriott, Ritz-Carlton, Beyond Meetings and Incentives. So I was approached to come to Metrolink to help broaden the customer engagement part, which consists of the marketing side, the sales side, also the customer engagement side. How do you make it a better experience for the customer to be able to, when they ride the train, to be able to have a great experience so they'll tell others? How do you go out and market the train to sell the seats and fill the trains? So that is my main objective. And normally, I have the PowerPoints and everything else, but what I've done is the old-fashioned way. I have brought out some handouts, and since we're limited on time, I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly because I have a tendency to talk a little long-winded. So,
Did you cut this down for 3 hours?
Yeah, I cut it down for 5. I mean, everybody criticized me saying that I talk too much, but you know what? Hopefully, what I bring to the table is interesting, and you'll be able to see a lot of things. John and I have a long history. He was one of our clients back in my past life with Meetings and Incentives company, Beyond Meetings and Incentives. John asked me to come up and see if I'd be interested in working with Metrolink. And I live in the San Diego area, and one of the things that I first asked John, I said, John, I'd love to talk to you about the project, but can you explain to me what Metrolink is? And it's kind of funny, where you would think having a good transportation system in the LA area that everybody would be aware of it. And John's response was, well, that's one of the reasons why we want you to come up here, because to get the word out. And it was something that I came up and visited John, and I told him I'm definitely up for the challenge because I see a great opportunity up here. And I was completely surprised, and this is something that I'll go through in my presentation, that I didn't realize that LA had a complete subway system. And when somebody told me there's a subway system up here, I'll tell you, I was completely blown away. And it is something that when you think about, when we travel, or I used to travel for my old company, I used to travel about 200,000 to 250,000 miles a year. We had an office up in New York, so I was up in New York all the time. We depended on the train. I had a habit of flying into Newark, getting on the A train, cutting across the Penn Station, hopping out of a taxi, go to the office. If you had to go to the other side of town, you walk 2 blocks, hop on the subway, and you go there. We depended on public transportation. We were in New York, D.C., Boston, Chicago, but not in California. And it was amazing that, it's so foreign to us. And coming up here to Metrolink, understanding, more of the public transportation sector, we saw a great opportunity. And, John asked me, he challenged me to say, okay, Bob, how can you reach out to our lines or the complete organization more in a non-prejudice or non-biased way where you can make it an even reach? What product can you do that can reach everything? So, I looked at it from a standpoint, understanding what our customer base was and everything else. And I thought about this program, it's called Wild at Work. And what I'll do, if we can all turn to the first page, I'll walk through this process because I think you'll find it very interesting. So, Wild at Work. What Wild at Work is, it's an added value employee benefit program. Think about at all your organizations, if you go into human resources, they normally have the 30% off of SeaWorld, the 25% off of Disney. They have the little promotional coupons that is offered to the employees. That's the first thing. The second thing is, think about the Entertainment Tonight book. It was popular probably about 15, 20 years ago where you used to spend $50 for a book of coupons, where there were a lot of 2-for-1s, and you'd buy it, and people would buy it because of the added value to it. The gentleman who designed Wild at Work, I've known for 25 years, and he was one of the key individuals that launched one of the first loyalty programs for SeaWorld of San Diego. I was with SeaWorld for 11 years. I cut my teeth on the SeaWorld in the sales and marketing side. And he launched what they call the Shamu Club. And the Shamu Club was basically, you're part of the organization of SeaWorld, you get certain discounts, certain benefits. But at that time, everything was done via the mail, everything was done via the phone. And eventually, as time went on, the gentleman figured out how to convert a lot of the manual stuff over to an online type of product. And therefore, it formed Wild at Work. Wild at Work was born down in San Diego. And when we go through it, you'll see that there's a heavy concentration of the members and the partners that are based in Southern California since it was born in San Diego. So if you go and look at this, it turns to the next page, the second page. You know, basically, one thing before we launched Wild at Work, you know, as we were launching it, one thing that we did not have in the organization was the proper data. You know, when I first got here 3 months ago, you know, I called the people in from the sales and marketing side and sat down with them. I asked a simple question. Can I see the marketing plan? Okay, can I see the business plan? Okay, can I see any of the sales and marketing initiatives that we're doing? Okay, what are we spending our money on? And I was very surprised because we didn't really have a satisfactory answer that I was happy with. It was like, okay, well, we're doing a little bit of this and we're doing a little bit of this. Okay, well, okay, why are we doing this? Well, because we want to get the awareness out. And I said, well, what is the goal? Well, we want to put riders on the train. Well, how are you measuring the success of a program? And you know, when you look at, you know, basically coming into a new organization, you got a fresh set of eyes. My background, my whole life has been in sales and marketing. I was very fortunate because my mentors, if you look at my 33-year career, probably out of the 33 years, 28 years, I reported to somebody with a marketing brain. I was very fortunate. I reported to the guy that put Shamu on the map. And you know, when you start looking at putting a Kill Row on the map where it becomes an icon, you know, I was very fortunate that I had that luxury of reporting or working with a lot of talent. And they taught me from the very beginning. You got to understand what your market is. You got to understand your audience. What's your demographics? You got to understand the basics. So one of the things that, since I didn't get the answers I needed on the marketing or business plan, then I asked about what are our new writers doing? Why are they writing their trains? We didn't have that data either, to my surprise. So we launched what we called a new ridership acquisition type survey. So what we decided to do is decided to track at each of our stations and plus at the call center when we saw a new rider, because everybody can tell who the new rider is. They have problems with the TDMs, or they have questions, where does the train go, and a few other things. So we decided, you know what, when you see that individual, ask the question, can I help you? Customer, you know, engagement, help them. Second thing is, are you needs a Metrolink? If the answer is yes, ask the question, how did you hear about Metrolink? So we wanted to start gathering that data because it's so important, because you start looking at the money going out, you want to know where it's spent. Because one of the challenges I had, and you know, I within the first 2 weeks of getting that Metrolink, I looked at our media spend for air and TV, and I looked at it, and I looked at the sheet where it shows the scheduling and everything else, and I said, you know what, it doesn't make sense what's on this sheet, what our market is. I've only been here for 2 weeks, but I can say, yeah, this doesn't make sense. So let's put a stop to it right now. You know, of course, it kind of got a little bit of pushback from the advertising, you know, the ad companies and everything else. Why are you doing this? Well, you know, my thing is, I want to understand why we're doing this, because I'm still, you know, coming in from a private sector mind, you know, taxpayer money, my money. It's like, why are we spending this money? What is it doing? Tell me how the results. Well, we can't measure it. Well, you know, anything you sell, anything you promote, anything you put out there, you can measure. So, you know, that's when we started this. And it was real interesting because you look at, I put a hold on $250,000 of media spend. And you look at $250,000, okay, you say, okay, divide it up within a 12-month period, it comes out to $20,000 plus per month. So what do you get for $20,000 per month? Well, when we started doing these surveys, all of a sudden, one of the areas you'll notice that 1% is TV. And this is only based on, let's say, a couple hundred people. So 1% is two people. So you start looking at it and saying, okay, well, then that means we spent $10,000 per person to get on a train. I know those numbers are inflated, but I can tell you, numbers don't lie, stats don't lie, and this is something you got to base a lot of decisions on. So right there, it told me it's not effective, because you look at today's air, you look at today's TV. One of the challenges is most people right now have a DVR at home, so they tape all their programs, they skip through all their commercials. People that are in the car have Sirius or XMSR, or they're flipping channels, so that broadcast that we used to get in the past was not effective. Plus, the other thing I challenged looking at the media schedule is, okay, what is our market? Well, it's the business work, it's the commuters. Okay, if that's the case, why are we promoting in their car at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Aren't they already at work? So those are the questions that were raised, and those are the questions that I challenged. And I said, you know what, we need to take a time out right now, just put this on hold. So we put it on hold. So in doing so, we started asking other questions about the ridership. And the interesting thing is, when you start looking at the stats, the majority of the people write our trainees because of good word of mouth. And then the other next portion is